Hey guys, and welcome to a special edition of Upfront Games for the month of January. Now, as promised, we're releasing this video as we will every month for something that we didn't really delve into a whole lot throughout the month as far as news. There's been a lot going on with Soldier Boy consoles and PS5 and the new Xbox and some other things that I was just actually was brought to my attention today in regards to a new handheld from PlayStation, etc., etc. We're not going to jump into the handheld thing yet. It's still R&D. It's not confirmed to hit the States, so I'm not going to delve into that at all. However, I am going to delve into the fact that there's a lot going on with PS5 and Xbox. And I'm just leaving the Soldier Boy thing, console thing alone just because, uh, we've already, I've heard it. I think it's nonsense. I think it's crazy that, he believes or has put out um, multiple consoles that are basically just a shell of a console that already existed and most of which have had ROMs that he shouldn't have had to begin with, hence the whole Nintendo thing. And his newest one that I've seen doesn't say it has any ROMs on it. However, it looks exactly like PSP. So I'm not even going to go into that because you're not creating your own systems. You're going to get in trouble eventually with what you're doing unless you're releasing your own content. However, I don't think any viable software company is going to get involved with something that looks exactly like something that one of the most prominent companies in gaming has released in the past. Therefore, I'm leaving that alone. However, one thing we did not touch on a whole lot this month uh, is the Xbox Anaconda and the and Lockhart, which are the two Xbox code names, and the PS5. So I want to touch on. Sorry, got food gas. I don't know. Um. Anyway, excuse me. So I wanted to get into kind of what this all means and what it means from a couple news outlet perspectives. So the first group or company that I pulled news from is actually a Newsweek article, believe it or not. So I'm just gonna go through this and then we'll talk about kind of what this means, um, or at least opinions off of what's being said. So Newsweek's had this to say. They said the next generation Xbox expected to arrive in 2020, so therefore we've already got a little bit of expectation, speculation, if you will, is now two next generation Xboxes. This is not something that we did already know. We already knew that it was Anaconda and Lockhart, one of which was going to be your premiere, would play everything, do everything, high-res TVs, etc. The other was going to be your potentially cloud-based lower-end system, 1080p, etc. So anyway, moving on. Um, whereas systems like Xbox One X and PS4 Pro looked like stopgap systems, essentially keeping up with the new tech like 4K resolution in between brand new systems. The latest rumors suggested that two-tiered console gaming is instead the new paradigm as Microsoft plans to launch a premium system alongside a more affordable model. Again, we already knew this much. Windows Central uncovered code names for the upcoming Xbox systems. We also knew this: Anaconda and Lockhart. Anaconda was the Xbox One equivalent, Xbox One X, I should say, with souped up hardware, customized graphics chips from AMD. It's also rumored that Anaconda will include SSD storage, with a major focus placed on radically minimizing loading times. That's that's great news if it can minimize those loading times, as some heavier games will take longer to load. So Great on them. Lockhart won't be quite so impressive, but will be cheaper. According to Windows Central, Lockhart is likely to be similar to the processing power of the Xbox One X. Now, the problem that I see already in this article is they've named the Xbox One X the Anaconda equivalent, and now they're saying that the Lockhart system is likely to be similar in processing power to the Xbox One X. Now, if they're just talking about strictly processing power, then maybe they have a point, as the Lockhart system may not have much more samities, I don't even know if that's a word, not much more in common, let's go with that, with the Xbox One X. It may be only the processing power that the Lockhart system will carry. It's going to be dumbed down somewhere. And from what we've heard, it's going to be the the ability to project next television hardware, as well as obviously even get to 4K. Lockhart, from what we've heard, is going to be a 1080p type system. It's not going to be a 4K player. Plus, they go on to say, credit where credit's due, current leaks hold that both Anaconda and Lockhart will support backward compatibility for Xbox, Xbox 360, and Xbox One titles. So there's some good news for Xbox owners there. Now, Xbox versus PS5. So they go on to say that obviously we've already known this. Sony is skipping next year's E3 convention. That could also point to imminent plans for announcing the PS5. That's something we were already aware of, and we've mentioned it a couple times throughout the first 4 or 5 videos that we've posted. And PlayStation is setting up its own event rather than launching an upcoming console in the midst of other E3 releases. Makes sense, could be very powerful for PlayStation. The question is, when? Is it going to be prior to E3 or after? At this point, we don't know. So that, I think, is the biggest consideration when it comes to PS5 right now, is when are they going to hold this event? So we'll see as more news comes out over the next few months. Further disclosures from anonymous sources to outlets like Kotaku confirm the likelihood of PlayStation 5 also landing in 2020. There's been speculation between different companies and sources that state that it would be 2020 or 2021. A lot of people have said that it might be more well placed in 2021. However, again, this is all sources speaking to certain outlets. Not so sure how much of this is going to carry in. In my opinion, 2020 would be great because I've had a PS4 since its release. There's a couple things that I want fixed, and I think that if they release the PS5 correctly, the new PSVR is going to be something that I'll actually get involved in. However, I passed on it this time. I did upgrade to a PS4 Pro just because graphically I have 4K TVs. I just didn't want to flip a system just to do it again at the next generation. So that being said, you know, I think it'd be great to have a release in 2020. However, will the systems and the gaming community, as well as the game developers, be ready for a release in 2020? That's the question. Now, what's missing so far is whether or not Sony will adopt a similar approach to Xbox by releasing multiple models of their next generation PlayStation. Let's look back at what PlayStation has done in the past. PlayStation 3 came out as a larger scale model. Later, it got PS3 Slim, and now we're looking at PS4. PS4 came out with a standard model and then went to PS4 Pro. So I believe that this is more than likely not a question of whether it's going to happen, it's a matter of how it's going to happen. Are they going to do it right away like Microsoft is? Which, in my opinion, I don't think they need to. As long as they've got the right model out initially that will keep up with the technology, then they can go and do what they've done with PS4 and PS4 Pro. They can then release a later model that steps up the game to the newest technology at that time, which is what PS4 and PS4 Pro did. I think that's a much better model. However, I think Xbox is going to use Lockhart to appeal to the more casual gamer, or somebody who doesn't really want all the bells and whistles. They only play certain games, and none of the new technology really matters to them, but they want the new games. So that's appealing to some, but if you're an actual gamer, you're gonna end up with the high-end model anyway. It, I mean, if you don't, I'd be curious to know why. Um, or in my case, I've got a 3-year-old son, so I might get something like that for him because it's cheaper and it's something that he can get into without worrying about graphics and stuff like that. Whereas I would have the Pro version or the high-end model. So we'll see. I don't think PlayStation needs to make that upfront choice. I think that PlayStation would be fine with releasing the PS5 and then going into a later model as they did with the Pro to step things up if needed. Alright, so continuing in the Newsweek article, so it says, but that's not all for Console Wars 2020. In addition to the upcoming Anaconda, and we're going back into Lockhart and PS5, Microsoft is about to take the Xbox massively multi-platform. First up is a rumored discless version of the Xbox One S, which could ship as early as spring this year. This will be Microsoft's opening gambit in a massive push for fully digital game releases. I'm not so sure if this is going to happen. Let me read the rest of this blurb and then I'll get into why. The previously mentioned disc-to-digital conversion program, which will upload your physical games, is in the works, combined with Microsoft's upcoming game streaming service codenamed xCloud. They go on to say, new graphically intensive Xbox games may be playable across systems and even on PCs and phones, with the cloud streaming servers handling the bulk of the processing. The problem I have with this statement is that there was a news release, and actually I think it was in our last video for news, that the Xbox rep, and let me see if I still have it here. Yes, I do. Phil Spencer had stated that xCloud was in development. However, there was no intention at this time to go fully xCloud, as that's going to be a technology that's going to evolve. That's a longer term goal for Microsoft. Going diskless? Sure, but you're going to be at liberty of the store and your network connection at all times. So that is, unless Microsoft is willing to allow you to game offline once it's already on your system. But as I've seen, at least I know with PlayStation it's true, any game that you've downloaded, you cannot play when you're not connected. If they've gotten that fixed, then great. If not, this could be a version of system that may not fully come to fruition in that way. Um, or maybe it is. Maybe they are releasing something that's going to be fully store-based. Um, However, I'm not so sure that it's a great idea right now without that cloud backup ability. Also, I don't think it's a great idea if you don't have a constant internet connection. And the reason I say that is there's a lot of people whose parents are going out and buying these things, and they don't necessarily look into it as much. Kid says, "I want an Xbox." Here's an Xbox. They got it, but it's all digital, and their internet connection sucks, and they can't get anything. And when it's down, they can't game. So there's a lot of questions there. Um, if it is coming out, great, but I think that there's some there's some technology increases and improvements in technology that need to happen prior to that step being taken. But maybe Microsoft's already done it. There's no telling. So, um, going on, we're almost to the end and dissecting this article, and I got one more for this video. Um, so while the information is more sketchy, it also looks like the PS5 will be invested in a similar cloud-based architecture. A new job listing for Sony Interactive Entertainment's cloud gaming engineering and infrastructure team suggests PS5 and the upcoming Xbox consoles are thinking along the same lines when it comes to digital game streaming. There are obvious upsides to the new gaming services heading our way, including more cross-pollination between PC and Xbox game development, and easy Netflix-like game streaming, even to relatively underpowered platforms. But 2019 or 2020 could also see the domination of product as service in gaming, similar to how Amazon iTunes movies have turned digital movies into products you no longer own. Instead, you're provided access to them on a provisional basis subject to license revocation at any time. A move away from physical media game releases could result in even more restrictive feature. Good luck playing your new game, then lending the disc to a friend. Okay, all that being said, I agree that PlayStation is probably looking at cloud-based architecture in some way, shape, or form as well. PlayStation's very hush-hush about how things get released, and they do that for a reason. There are some insiders that get information that eventually spills down, or sometimes almost immediately spills down to the community via people who have links to those insiders. Now, that being said, I think there's a very, very adequate point that needs to be made when it comes to cloud-based Netflix-like game streaming. If this is going to happen, it needs to happen on a PS4 type. I'm thinking of the name. One of these subscription services. So you have one, I believe Xbox has one too, where it's just you pay per month and you can stream the game. Here's the bad part of that. The charge per game. If that's going to happen, like right now, you download a game and you can't get online again, you can't play that game. If I'm paying you full price for a game, I don't want the ability of playing that game to rely on anything. Period. I want to be able to play that game regardless of whether I'm online or offline. Some people may disagree, but if I'm purchasing it, I'm purchasing it. I still purchase disc-based games, but I also have a lot of purchase titles through the PlayStation Store. However, I also have been fortunate enough to have a very, very good internet connection in almost every way, shape, or form that I could possibly have it, um, in every place, location that I've been. So I don't entirely worry about that too much right now. However, the strictly uh, streaming service or strictly cloud gaming, that's a bit scary if they don't do it right. So I guess we got to see when all of that unfolds and what direction that's going to take. So that being said, that is all that Newsweek had to say, of course, with all opinions thrown in there as well. So now I have one other article here, and this was from Gadget. So this is more techie than the Newsweek article, but I thought it had quite a bit of things to cover as well. So Sony and Microsoft may be tight-lipped about PS5 and the next Xbox. Rather good statement, but that hasn't stopped a flurry of rumor and speculation on what to expect from the successors to the PS4 and the Xbox One. The latest of these, courtesy of Reddit and popular gaming forum Reset Era, suggests that PS5 and the next Xbox will be priced in line with that of PS4 and Xbox One originally. So when they're originally released, that's kind of where they're seeing the price point. Is it true? We don't know yet. Furthermore, it suggested yet again that Microsoft would follow a two-pronged strategy with the streaming Xbox codenamed Lockhart and the more conventional, powerful variant referred to internally as Anaconda. PS5 and next Xbox release dates are slated for around holiday season of 2020. So again, we have some confirmation between the two articles here. Could be the same sources. I don't know. However, interestingly, the Reddit post with PS5 and next Xbox pricing and specifications, if I could talk, specifications was removed. However, some of its details were confirmed by a verified insider on Reset Era, lending credence to some of the claims. The latest rumors indicate that the PS5 will start at $399, same as launch price of the PS4 back in 2014, whereas the upcoming Xbox One successor will be released at a price tag of $499. Again, same as the launch price of the Xbox One with Kinect sensor. The Kinectless variant, which was added later, was also sold initially at $399. So, speculations on price point, we don't know. I would hope they stick to that price point because any higher and you're going to have a lot of people just waiting it out, to be honest with you. The PS4 and Xbox One XS, whichever variant you're playing, it can last a year, 2 years without it being a huge problem. And by then, the console will drop a little bit. You'll be able to save a little bit of money. I think these price points sit rather well with a new release. So we'll just see kind of what they do. Gadget goes into the specifications and price. So here's what they're saying in reference to all three consoles. The PS5 is set to CPU custom 8 cores, 16 thread Zen 2 CPU. We've heard that a few times, so I feel like they're probably close to correct there. There's been a discussion about well, on cores. No, never mind. I'm talking memory. My bad. Cores, they are correct. This has been speculated across both systems and all but confirmed by Sony and Xbox. So I don't think this is really too far off, if off at all. Um, So the GPU is a custom Navi at 8 plus teraflops. Um, the memory at 12 gigs, and it's GDDR6. Storage at 1 terabyte SSD, and the price $399. So again, the memory is where there's a little bit of back and forth on what's going to happen there. This has 12 gigs of memory, but there's been speculation about there being standard memory for the system operation and video RAM, and this would be a split in some way to accommodate both. But those details haven't really rolled out properly for us to be able to say, yes, this is going to be 8 gigs of system memory and 4 gigs of video, or vice versa. So maybe we'll see something come out here momentarily over the next month or so that will confirm some more of the specs uh, in the best way possible. But this also was from the Reddit article that was removed, and it was probably removed for a reason. So it could be that a lot of this is very factual. Now, the next Xbox, their specifications, and this is for the Anaconda, not the Lockhart. We'll get into that in a minute. The again, custom 8 cores, 16 thread Zen 2 CPU, a custom Navi at 12 teraflops for the GPU, 16 gigs of GDDR6, 1 terabyte of storage SSD at 1 gigabyte per second. DirectX ray tracing and MSAI. There's been talk of ray tracing across systems at this point, so we'll have to kind of wait and see how that pans out as well. And again, the price $499. Now, the streaming console or Lockhart is where you get a little lower end. You still have the custom 8 core 16 thread Zen 2 CPU, so that's not changing. The custom Navi at 4 plus teraflops, so that's not, obviously you're not getting as much out of this system as you are with the Anaconda or even the PS5. Memory's 12 gigs, GDDR6, 1 terabyte of SSD at 1 gigabyte per second, DirectX ray tracing and MSAI, and then a price of $249. Now that's what is being said off of that Reddit article. That's not necessarily all factual, but we won't know anymore until hopefully PlayStation's event, and of course E3, where Xbox is claiming is going to be their biggest E3 ever. Some of these claims were confirmed by the insider at Reset Era. The hardware is partially true. The post reads, the story is true, or storage is true. Ray tracing is true. Lockhart is not streaming Xbox, so that's false. Xbox SoC codename is Anubis, and they're saying to check AMD's plan. MSAI is not a part of the hardware. In other words, never heard of a TPU or ASIC like it. So how to implement ray tracing, you'll have to see GDC 2019, why they make a decision like Lockhart. There's still no dev kit according to GDC 2019. So that I don't know, because this is more referring to the Xbox itself. I do know that the PS5 dev kit has been out to the AAA publishers for quite some time. They've had it for 12 months. So while the Reset Era user was verified by the administration, it's best to take this information with a grain of salt until we have official information. Again, a lot of this is speculation up until Sony and Xbox stand up and say, hey, this is what's going to happen. So the first concrete details are potentially going to release at GDC 2019. So they've questioned whether or not it's going to release prior to or after GDC 2019. But as of right now, GDC is in March, so we may not see anything as far as a dev kit for Xbox prior to GDC 2019, which may mean that those publishers are only going to get that dev kit for a year prior to potential release, maybe a year and a half, based on when their actual release date is going to be, if it is in fact in 2020. So again, concrete details are going to be more than likely PlayStation's event, and it's their own event, so we don't know when that's going to be. My hope is to capitalize on everything. Sony goes prior to E3. However, I think they're big enough in their own regard that it really doesn't matter so much if they go prior to or after E3, but they have to at least give a little bit of fair warning, and I hope it's not a closed event. I've seen quite a few things where PlayStation will do some events throughout the world that are closed to general public, and we're digging through YouTube videos and side notes that people put their own speculation on or spins on, and it doesn't actually come up to the right information. So I'd like to see the conference itself as it airs. So hopefully, at the very least, PlayStation will put that on their YouTube as a live feed immediately or at their website so you can go watch it. Now E3, I always tune into E3 through IGN around E3 itself as they post live. So I mean, there's going to be a lot going on over the next few months, especially what we're going to be covering, because GDC is right around the corner, and then 2 months after GDC, or sorry, almost 3 months after GDC, you're stepping into E3. So there's a lot coming, a lot more information that we're not aware of at this point. But I have a feeling some of the speculation that has been brought out there is going to come to fruition in one way, shape, or form. I just hope that with the stuff that's been confirmed, there's certain questions about the difference in CPU, or sorry, GPU. I'm hoping that those speculations are in fact more in line with each other, because really there's no point in competing, or system's a system. You either like one or you like both. You're an Xbox fanboy or you're a PlayStation fanboy, or you just play everything because they're great games. But I think the GPU thing's a little off between the two. If you look again, PS5 was saying 8 teraflops, and then or 8 gigs, sorry. Yeah, no, 8 teraflops, that's right. So 8 teraflops, and then you've got the Xbox Anaconda is spouting 12. At this stage in the game, and looking at how games are going to evolve, I'm not so sure I believe those numbers at this point. So there's some things that we still got to figure out, and we will. It's coming, guys. I have no doubt in my mind that at some point this year, especially if they're going for a year away for a release, whether it's holidays or not, something's got to come to light in advance and before next year for sure. So I've got my fingers crossed, hoping that something comes out of GDC, E3, and of course Sony's press conference for the year. But this was our special coverage for January. I wanted to touch on kind of what each one was looking like and what we were seeing from at least two different news sources out there and what they're stating in two different areas. So one was more coverage on what to expect. The other is specifications and um, some of the deep down tech knowledge. So by all means, again, take it with a grain of salt. The confirmation of the few things like the storage being true, hardware being partially true, ray tracing true, those things great. But streaming console, that's according to um, this article, it's not a streaming console. It's just not. Um, so we'll get more data as it comes in, and we'll definitely offer it up to you. Thank you for tuning into this special video for the week. By the next video, which is going to be Sunday, for the weekly news on all systems, we'll definitely have our posters up. Actually, they're right behind me. So I'll have those up for a little bit of wall art here because this is just driving me insane. So yeah, thanks for checking it out. Hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share if you can, because we're trying to get everything geared up so we can start doing some cool things with the channel. So definitely, if you like the news and you like speculation, opinions, by all means, keep tuning in and leave your comments, questions below. I definitely want to hear from you. And until our Sunday edition of this week's news, which actually will be our first news of February, you guys have a good one. Thanks for tuning in. And again, thank you for chilling with Upfront Games. Have a good one, guys. Bye.